Well, good afternoon, everybody. Today is Sunday, August the 1st, and this is Life Matters. Let's talk about it. Well, hello, everybody. Hello, everybody. I am Michele Irby Johnson. I am your host, and this is Life Matters with Michele. You know, this is the platform where we talk about everything African American, everything that deals with our community. And so we like to talk about those things that matter to us. Now, for those of you who have questions, certainly put them in the chat. That way I can field them over to our wonderful guest on today, who happens to be none other than Miss Lakisha Jenkins. Say hello to the people, my dear.
Hello.
Good to see you.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. So, ladies and gentlemen, Miss Lakisha Jenkins, today we are going to be talking about self-love through pain. And I know that's going to be some good stuff. So you all put your questions in the chat and we can certainly field them over to her and she can answer them as we get to them. Let me introduce her to you formally, first and foremost. Miss Lakisha Jenkins is a native of South Carolina who now resides in Maryland. And she is the founder of Selflove Ministries, which she formed following the loss of her son in 2015 as a result of domestic violence. She also battled the loss of her husband in 2009, and Lakisha has battled depression, low self-esteem, low self-image due to the traumas she has faced throughout her life. However, she has been able to tap into her inner strength and find healing in God, and also in supporting other women who faced similar life-altering experiences. Lakisha's overall goal is to inspire, uplift, and encourage women to love themselves in spite of what they have been through and to see themselves as victorious and not victims. She is transparent, truthful, and compassionate towards women and the challenges that they face, and has made it her life's work to help them. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our sister, our friend, yes, our comrade, Miss Lakisha Jenkins, discussing self-love through pain. Hey, sweetie, how are you?
I'm doing fine.
Wonderful, wonderful. It's good to see. She has such a beautiful smile, y'all. For those of you who can't see it, she has such a pretty smile. Yes, yes. Now I know why your Facebook book name is what it is, because it really represents who you are. So we are talking today about self-love. And so this is an issue that I see, generally across many spectrums, but I think as we talk about it in the community, the African-American community, I think we really need to dive into this and to help people to understand, male and female, but more specifically those who you are geared towards, helping them to understand self-love. So give us a working definition. It can be simple, what you deem it to be. What exactly does self-love mean?
To me, self-love is just being able to recognize your needs, being able to sustain a healthy foundation to keep you right. We're not talking about pedicures and, going on trips and things like that, but we're talking about when that challenging point hits, when you get so discouraged and you feel like you don't have any more strength. Like, how do you still survive when the people that you are normally leaning towards are no longer there because they can't be there because they got their own situations going on? How are you going to sustain? How are you going to survive? That's self-love, building that foundation for yourself, and building that surrounding for yourself where you can still be able to manage. And it's something that you have to work yourself up to. It doesn't all come at one time. But what I tell people, this is a lifeline, a lifelong thing, through relationships, through your own personal battles, through your spiritual development, through being a parent, through that new job or trying to your accomplishment, your dreams, your goals. Self-love matters through everything. And this is something that we have to maintain for the rest of our life.
That is some good stuff. And it almost sounds like, if we can put it in this context, self-care. Now, like you
Absolutely.
said, and I'm so glad you said this, it's not pedicures, it's not massages, it's not getting your new weave done or buying a new hairpiece. That's not self-care. It's being able to, like you said, I had to write it down, recognize your needs and build a foundation. And it's a lifelong journey through life's experiences. I just condensed it a little bit because I think we get it a little twisted when we think that self-care has to do with spending money or
Mm.
self-love has to do with spending money, when it really is recognizing that you yourself matter, that you yourself are beautiful. I was telling you before the show, I said, oh, she's so cute. She's so pretty, beautiful smile. And if we can, and a lot of times, Lakisha, and correct me if I'm wrong, a lot of people rely on the accolades of others rather than leaning into who God has told them that they are and who they see themselves as, rather than saying, my husband didn't tell me I was pretty today, or my boss didn't tell me I did a great job today. Then you can fall into depression and low self-esteem and all of that. But when you recognize, I love that word, you recognize who you are.
Absolutely.
That's some good stuff right there.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
so, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Um, we have some questions that are bouncing up here already, but I'm going to save these three for just a moment. And so we said, what is self-love? You gave us a working definition. So when you said it's being able to recognize, being able to build, being able to understand it's a life's journey. What else does it look like from the natural eye or from someone who's looking on the outside, from the outside in? What does that look like? Again, we said it's not manicures and it's not mani-pedis, it's not massages. What does self-love look like?
Self love looks like basically looking inside. I
Mm,
tell people it is looking at your ugly self, your ugly self. Those things that you don't want to admit, those faults, those flaws that, because people carry faults and flaws for decades. They carry not just, we're not talking about weeks, months, decades. The unhappiness, the grief, so many different things, the insecurities, the low self esteem, the lack of self worth and value. Deal with those things for so long that we dress up, the makeup, the hair, the clothes, we look good from the outer appearance. But self-love is really taking the time to do some self-intervention, about yourself and being able to say, this is what I struggle with, this is what I'm struggling with, this is what I'm dealing with. And being willing, you have to be willing for any step of life. You have to be willing to reach that goal of transformation, that area of transformation, to just create a change. As I said, it's not easy. It's not an easy step and it's not an easy phase. But here's what I tell people: when you step out and you take that first step and you see like that point of excitement because you did it, you finally did it, you admitted it, you're no longer scared of what people think, you don't care about what they say because you're trying to change. And the only people that are really talking are the ones who are not changing, who has no mindset of
come
change.
on.
So when you start to form that mindset that I no longer worry about what they're saying or what they think of me because I've stepped in the area of changing my life, it just continues to grow and to grow and to grow. And the final touch is when you look to God and say, God, I look for you to give me every sense of direction I need. I've
Hmm.
never done this. I've been holding on to this for so many years, so many decades, but God, I'm tired. I'm ready to let go. So it's recognizing your inner struggles. So a lot of people have a hard time doing that because we worry about what other people say. Or we get too comfortable in the environment. We get too comfortable with the friends. We get too comfortable even with family. We get too comfortable. But you know that that environment no longer works for you. Here's also what I tell
Yeah.
people. When you start to grow, don't worry about the people that are falling off because everybody is not meant to go with you as you grow. But here's the thing, it doesn't mean that it's a disconnection permanently. It just means that I'm going somewhere else. God is elevating me. He's taking me somewhere else. And maybe in 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, I'll be able to help you, in a circumstance. But right now, for self-love purposes, I got to do what makes me happy, and I got to do what I know that I need for a better parent, for a better spouse, for a better role model, for a better ministry leader. I got to do what makes me happy.
You know what? You hit on so much in that little spiel right there. But one thing I'm going to extrapolate is the part about people. I
Hmm,
tell you, when I finally realized that how I or how I do what I do, whether it's preaching, whether it's teaching, whether it's moving, whether it's this, whether it's how I wear my hair, when I stopped caring about what other people thought about how I took care of myself, you talk about a level of freedom.
hmm,
That right there took care of me real good. And I am constantly telling people, and this is my mantra until the day I die. I promise you it is. How people feel about you, how people think about you, and their opinions of you are none of your business.
hmm. Not at all.
Because that's theirs. That belongs to them. As long as you understand who you are and you recognize your wealth, your value, your expanse, or what have you, what people say doesn't matter because that's based off of their feelings about you, not your feelings about you. So that is, if y'all don't take nothing else away from this here conversation, what people think, what they say, and how they feel about you is none of your business. That's on them.
Absolutely.
We have somebody that said, as you grow, you got to let people go.
Absolutely. Got to let them go. Because here's the thing, if I could just say one thing, people will tell you that you need to change. But the moment that you change, they never thought that you was going to change. They were just saying that you need to change, you need to change. But once you actually start to change, they won't even applaud you. They won't even give
They
you a
can't
word of
handle it.
encouragement because they were so used to the old you. They don't even know how to welcome the new you.
They can't handle who you've become. Look at here.
No,
Let
they
me tell you
can't.
something. You about to make me happy. You're about to make me real happy up in here, Lakisha Jenkins. Let me tell you something. Let me bring my preacher hat back. Let me pull it back because I feel something pulling on me. Look, people they have these unwritten expectations about your life.
Mm-hmm.
And then when what we do or who we are doesn't align with their perception, they're mad at us. They're mad if we do it. They're mad if we don't do it. They're mad if we grow. They're mad if we're stunted. They're just mad. And again, goes back to what I said. I don't care how you feel about my life because you don't own it. You don't have nothing to do with it. And how you feel about it is none of my business.
Hmm.
My God, my God. With their these questions are coming through here. One of them says, how deep should a person go with self-love? And are there different levels of self-love?
Go as far as you need to go to sustain the level of strength that you need. As I said, there's phases and there's levels to this thing because first you have to be willing, and once you're willing, you have to be able to admit it. It's so many different things that you have to be able to do. You have to step into that self-reflection. You have to do some self-evaluation, and everybody's system is different. What I tell you that I did to get to the point where I am today, yours may not work the same way, but we should end up at the same place. We should be loving ourselves. We should be no longer worrying about what people think, no longer worrying about what people say. But everybody's phase is different. It just calls for basically self-evaluation, self-reflection, that intervention within yourself. You have to just do some things that you've never done. And for some people, it takes time to even think about it and put that on paper because they have neglected themselves for so many years, for so long. So you go as deep as you feel that you need to go to get to that level where you feel strong about yourself. The most important thing is that you begin to feel confident in who you are. You begin to walk with that smile. You begin to, walk with that strut. You begin to no longer worry about how people see you, because you are trying. The most important thing is you're trying. You are
Yeah.
trying. You are attempting, and there's no you can't put a time on it. You can't put a time on it. All you can do is continue to try and dedicate your best effort. And when you dedicate your best effort and you include God in that process, you're gonna win. You're gonna win.
I love that. Dedicate your best effort. Whoo! That because I'm writing that down because I like to take notes when I have guests. Because what we often find is that people are sporadic with their effort. So if it doesn't work in the first 5 minutes, they quit. If it doesn't work in the first month, they quit. If it doesn't work in the first 6 months, they quit. It took you a minute to get where you are. So it's going to take you a minute to get out of it. An alcoholic doesn't wake up one day and he's an alcoholic. A drug addict doesn't wake up one day, he's a drug addict. It takes time to get there. So it's going to certainly take time for you to come out from under whatever that weight, whatever that spirit is. And so we have to be patient with ourselves, even in self-love. Am I right?
You're right. You're right. It took me, my son passed away October 19th of 2015. Grief had me stuck so bad where I tell people it's not that I was suicidal. I just didn't know how I was going to get back up and be that Keisha I was, because prior to losing my son, I had tapped into the self-love. I was starting to love myself and all of those things because of the broken relationship. So that was good. And I thank God that he allowed the relationships, to happen before then, because that's what made me knew that Keisha, you're still valuable. You're still loved. You might not see how you're going. I didn't even see what I'm doing today, speaking and encouraging. I never saw that. It was my darkest moment. I didn't even know how I was ever going to get here. But many nights of praying, many nights of just crying in my bed to myself and just talking to God, like 6 years, I really just started like really speaking and doing things the end of last year, this year, where I became completely confident in myself. It took 6 years of fighting grief and depression, and I still have those days. But because I am, through my spiritual identity and tapping into my purpose and knowing that God is using me, even when I face a bad day, I say, girl, you got to get back up. Girl, you got to get back up. You can't lay in this bed. You got to get back up. And as I was telling you before we went live, it's therapy for me. And it's therapy for me. And I enjoy helping other people at the same time, because I knew that when I was going through grief and depression, having a therapist for a year, I went through therapy for almost a year and a half, but I knew I didn't want to be in therapy for the rest of my life. So I said, God, I need something that's going to allow me to handle this grief for the rest of my life. And the only thing that I could come up with was self-love ministry. Learn to do videos in my bedroom with a cardboard sign on my wall and start talking to people. But look where God has brought me over 6 years, So again, your best effort. You may start small, but hey, the more that you dedicate, the more effort that you get, your steps are going to become bigger, and God is going to use you on bigger platforms.
My God, my God. Whew, you are saying some stuff here. We have a question that says, how does self-love relate to your health and wellness, especially trauma, emotional trauma and pain?
Again, when we talk about trauma and pain, when I come in contact with people with the trauma and pain, there are things, a lot of times the trauma and pain are from childhood, the early teen and things like that, but they're 30, 40, and 50 years old. So even with those things, we're never going to forget those things. And a lot of times those things come with forgiving a person, the person who did this to you, or the person who abandoned you, or the person who left you or treated you a certain way. So we have to get to the point, because even with myself, I had to get to the point where I'm going to forgive my mother for what I thought may have happened, or this or that. I'm going to forgive this person because of what they did. So we have to get to the point of basically just learning how to forgive, getting to the point where we just tap into all of those things that we have been holding on for years, and getting to the point where we can, like I said, we're not going to forget them, but we have to get to the point we're willing to let them go and not let them become a future stronghold over our life, because you will never know your full potential if you keep holding on to it. You will never know. You will keep looking at people accomplishing their dreams and doing this and doing that, and you'll say to yourself, man, I think I can do that. Well, guess what? You can do it, but you got to let go of that stronghold that has you stuck at that moment. And you can do it.
Absolutely. And I'm glad you said that, because God, you said so much. Well, thank God this is recording. But you said so much, because I think we do, when people come to us and they have trauma and pain, and, unless you know how to strip that away and you know how to peel it back and rake through it and get to the real root, and then you get to forgiveness, you have to give yourself permission to forgive. Because sometimes people guilt you into, well, you shouldn't forget. Do you remember what they did to you? Yes, I remember. Some people will keep dead things alive, and you're trying to get past it. And so we've got to learn how to shut out the naysayers and people who think they're doing us well, and just let them know, I love you, sweetie. I love you, sir. But what you're saying is not contributing to my healing process. And while that might be how you feel, that's not working for my process. And so a lot of times people would lend their opinions to what you're going through, but it's not helpful. And so it's great when we can recognize what is toxic to our growth and what is helpful to our growth. And even though, again, the person may not be trying to damage our process, but because they don't really know where we are, and because they've never been there and they've never stepped inside our shoes or stood inside our skin, they think that based off what they've heard, read, seen, that it's going to fit the bill. This is not a one size fit all thing. Self-love looks different for everybody.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So I just think it's important that, because you're saying some good stuff and I can't write fast enough, but I'm telling you, I'm going to go back. But I think people need to understand that self-love is not a one size fit all, because how Lakisha loves herself may be different than how Michele loves herself. Now, I'm not saying it's vastly different, but because of what we've been through, because of our history and our story, we have to approach self-love in a way that is meaningful for us, in a way that helps us to embrace where we are from where we've been to where we're going, and just love, love all of ourselves. The broken parts and the fractured parts and the smoothed out parts. We got to learn how to love ourselves from every dimension. Yes.
And can I say one thing?
Yes.
When we're talking about healing and we're talking about the brokenness, being able to just adhere to those things, that's all self-love. If you can just step over out of the trauma, out of those things that happen, and agree with yourself and admit with yourself, like, you want to get past those things and heal, just think about how much better could I love if I really let this go. If I really let this go, how much better can I become? I will become a better parent, a better spouse, a better leader, a better whatever. I will become a better person. So a lot of times we don't realize how that stronghold is really affecting you from your full potential. Being able to heal and say, I'm no longer going to let this broken part of me keep me stuck. That's a big thing. That's a big thing. So we have to be able to just be willing to heal from the past relationship, that separation, that divorce, for the women, even the miscarriage, the breakup, whatever it was, the abandonment, the grief, all of those things. Like, we have to be able to heal. As we both said, everybody's process is different, but being able to get to that point where you feel confident in yourself, where you are happy with yourself, that's where we're all going to end up. We're all going to end up in that spot, and you never know who you're helping along the way.
Absolutely.
I thought that at a point in time in my life that I was in a bad spot in my darkest moment, but then God would connect me with people that were in a darker spot than me. That gave me encouragement that, okay, Keisha, you need to get it together because this person, you know, and sometimes not sometimes, we need people around us where that energy can be pulled from
Yeah.
different directions. You know, if I'm here and you up here, okay, you can help me come up. But if you're down here and I'm right here, I can help you pull up. A lot of times we want to be on the same level. We want to be the person with the brighter mind. We want to know, we want to be the person that knows the most. But learn to position yourself around people that are on different levels, because it really helps. It really helps. So that healing, we have to tap into that healing stage. We have to admit that I'm no longer going to let this keep me in this place and keep me stuck, because it is a wonderful thing. It's a lifetime thing.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful thing when you begin to see, like, man, like I am really feeling, because you begin to feel different. You begin to act different. You begin to talk different. You begin to create, you begin to have a different mindset. And again, people may be shocked by the way you present yourself. But again, you never know who you're helping. You'll never know who you're helping.
You never know. You never know. I tell you, you are dispensing some good stuff right about here. Up and through here, Miss Lakisha Jenkins talking about self-love through pain. And something you said about, I wrote it down. It says you have to be willing to heal. But one of the things I always tell people, because I'm a counselor at heart, I have a counselor's degree. One of the things I said, God can't heal what you don't reveal. And so if you don't show the bruises, how can it be healed? And even when we're counseling other people or we go to minister to other places and all of that, if we're not showing some level of transparency, people are going to be like, well, how does she know my story? Because she's never lived it. Or how do they know how I feel? Because they never walked it. That transparency is a revealing of who we are and our scars. And so if we reveal ourselves to people who are wounded, then they'll know, oh, I can make it too. And if we reveal ourselves to God, he can heal it. So if we don't reveal it, it can't be healed. And so we have to be willing to stand in a place of exposure
Yeah.
so that what hurts us can be healed. I mean, whether it be through conversations with each other, prayer with one another, talking to God, going to retreats and all of these different things. If we are too ashamed to reveal what's hurting us, then we're not going to be healed. It's going to take longer to happen.
Absolutely.
I tell you, this is some good stuff right here.
I'm enjoying it.
Oh my God. So let's shift a little bit. And if this is too difficult, you let me know. And in our book, because you were one of my co-authors in this book, In
Yes.
Recovery Rising from the Ruins, your chapter is called Perseverance Through Darkness. Give us a snippet of that so that you can help us to understand how God helped you to navigate that dark period to get to where you are now. Now, I know it's only been 6 years, but give us a snippet, because I don't want to open up, I don't want to trigger, anything, but give us a snippet of what happened, and then give us what God did for you to get you through this dark period into self-love.
My dark period started with through domestic violence. I lost my 14-year-old son through a domestic violence situation, which I dealt with a lot of shame. I dealt with a lot of guilt because of the decisions I made, which was very hard. You think of somebody, you lose your son, and then you like, man, if I wouldn't have done this, I wouldn't have lost my son. That was the hardest place for a mother to be in. And I felt so low, because not only did I know and my family knew, it was on TV. Different channels were saying different things, and the way that people viewed me and the things that I heard, like going to therapy. I live right down the street from the place that I went to therapy, but I used to cover my face to get in my car because I was afraid somebody was going to recognize me from the news and point to me. It was a dark spot for me. And as I said a little while ago, it took many nights and many days of just praying and kneeling at my bed and saying, God, I need your help. I've got myself through previous situations, but this right here, I just can't do it. And it really took me to just give God that yes. It was a yes that I never gave God before. And my
Mm.
exact words was, God, if you get me through this, because I know I can't do it, I'll spend the rest of my life telling people that you did it and showing them how good that you are. And for 6 years, I've been doing just that because I realized that it was only God that allowed me to get to the place that I am today. I did none of this on my own. The only thing that I did was commit to the process. And through the process, I realized I had purpose before I entered the situation, before the situation happened. I already had my bubbles filled with ministry, and I already had those things written down on paper, and the visions were coming to me, and I was talking to people about them. But God allowed the purpose to form through through my
Mm.
effort of survival, through my moment of recovery, all of those things, to be willing to help people even when the days I was putting a smile on my face, but I probably cried that night, helping people even though I was still struggling inside, because that was allowing me to see that I was still valuable. Like God could still use me despite of how much I felt I was low and what I
Yeah.
did wrong and what I caused. God was still saying, Keisha, like, I could still use you. So I tell people, no matter what has happened, no matter how bad it is, when you talk about shame and you talk about guilt, that's the hardest thing to pull yourself up from, because
That's a
nobody will
spirit.
ever understand. You could tell them the reasons why you did it, and they could sit in your face and say, yeah, I understand, but you really don't understand why I did it. It was the hardest thing that I ever had to pull myself up from. But not just that promise to God, it was the promise to my son, to my sons, that I would not let this situation tear me down as a mother. Through it all, it was the moments of me even saying, before I took this man in my house, it was me saying, I talked to my boys, because the media was saying, oh, this is just another black woman that took a man into her house and look what happened. But I had to tell myself, you know what? I remember that moment before I even offered him in my house. I had a talk with my boys. You know what I'm saying? So I was
Mm.
not that mother that just took a man in and things happened. And it was the hardest moment of my life. The hardest moment of my life. And as I say, I still have those days, birthdays and holidays, and
Yeah.
it's still hard. But through God, He continues to strengthen me. He continues to guide me. He continues to just give me everything that I need. And through this all, like I said, God has just revealed my purpose. He's revealed purpose. He's revealed the things that I was sitting on. He's revealed so much potential that I didn't even know that I had, to be honest.
Mm.
He's given me new insight, created a new way of living. He's revealed in these last 3 to 6 months, God has revealed my new spiritual identity. You know what I'm
Amen.
saying? Which I would always say was, I'm just in this new place and it feels so different. But I didn't recognize until doing an interview with my cousin earlier last month. He was like, cuz, you know what? Your new spiritual identity. That's what God is showing you. And God will put people around you that when you don't understand, this is what you're going through. This is what it is. And I'm just thankful. I'm just thankful because when you look around, you see so many people that can't get themselves back up. So many people that are struggling that don't have a support system. I had a wonderful support system, my family, to pastors, to co-workers, to friends. I thank God. The hardest moment of my life, but I tell people, don't doubt that hard moment, because that hard moment could be trying to birth something. That
Mm.
hard moment could be trying to mold something. That hard moment could be trying to shift you into a better place, pulling something out of you that you didn't even recognize that you had. I did not recognize I had all of this in me, but I had to push. I had to push through every moment. I had to dedicate myself in a way that I never did before. And I had to give God that yes that I never
Yeah.
gave him before.
Amen. Amen. I tell you, her cash app is, no, I'm just kidding, because you just preached up. Woo, girl, you just preached up in here. Let me tell you something. And I'm so glad that you're constantly repeating your purpose. because a lot of people feel that what they've been through, that God can't use them anymore, that you're too tainted. You know, I was told one time I was damaged goods and God was never going to use me. God was never, 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 never. And for a season, I believed the lie. And so there are people out there who are believing the lie that just because you were abused, just because you were rejected, just because you lost your job, just because you're not the right weight, just because you know your hair doesn't look like everybody, whatever the case may be, that causes people to fall into this spirit of oppression, that says that, you know, they're not worth it and they don't matter. I love the fact that God still uses us. He uses the broken things.
Yes, he
He,
does.
you know, we're clay in the potter's hand, right? We talks about it in the Bible. He puts us back together, but not the way we want to be put back together, but the way that he can best utilize us. So every crack and every fracture is for him, you know, and then he can turn that around and use that to bless somebody else. So I'm so glad that you are honing in on purpose and you're expressing the importance of purpose, because a lot of people out there listening, a lot of people out there watching, they are saying, you know, because this happened, God can't use me. Because this happened, I'm a throwaway. Because this happened, I don't have a voice. And that's a lie from the enemy. It's a lie from the pit of hell. And I am so glad that you are able to express that even through your pain, that there is still purpose. God doesn't, first of all, he doesn't make mistakes, but best of all, he doesn't throw anything away, including us.
Absolutely.
He doesn't throw us away because we fell into a situation, whether we chose it or it chose us. He doesn't throw us away. So purpose still abounds. We just have to realign ourselves with it.
Yep.
Come on here.
It sure does. I'm telling you. And you know, the thing that I hold on tight, I hold on tight the purpose. You know, the way that I used to get discouraged when something goes wrong, I don't do that no more. I said, God, my mindset is, God, I know you taking me into this for a reason. And I know that when I come out of this, it's going to be something that I could use.
Absolutely. My God. Because
I no longer get
one thing,
this things anymore, because I realize he's going to guide me into the place that I'm supposed to go. And I tell people, like, I don't care. I tell people, sometimes you wonder why things are not really working out the way that you want them to. Is because you're trying to do it on your own. You're trying to do it on your own. But when you allow God, when you open up the door to allow God to handle whatever you're going through, I'm telling you, the whole process things will begin to happen. And I had to ask myself, God, I've been doing this for 40 something years, trying to do it on my own. But I give you this absolute complete yes. And now look what you done. You know, so I tell people, stop trying to manage it on your own. You may have never stepped into a church, never paid a tithe, never attended a Bible study, but give God that yes, and he will align your process. He will introduce you to the steps that you're supposed to take to get to where you need to be. But he needs to understand that you are sincere about this process, that you are committed to this process, that you are willing to change, and that you're not going to let any struggle, any defeat, any circumstance, nothing hold you back from pursuing your full potential and adhering to your full purpose.
my God, ladies and gentlemen, we have been talking to Miss Lakisha Jenkins. We are talking about self-love through pain, and this has been some good stuff through here. I tell you, I mean, I'm over here beaming and bubbling in my spirit, because I love when someone comes on and it gives me a push, and it makes me want to say, I can preach that right there. But it's so important, that purpose. Let's link it back to your spiritual identity, because a lot of us don't know who we are in God. A lot of us, we go to church, we go to Bible study, we attend all the services, but we're in there as imposters. We're in there as undercover folk, because we've not adopted who God said that we are. We've not yet leaned into who God has called us. What did God say about you? Who did he call you? Who did he birth you in the earth to become? But you're sitting on your laurels, or you're sitting on your behind, because of fear, or because of a mistake, or because, somebody said you couldn't do it, or whatever the case may be. So when you talk about your spiritual spiritual identity, can you put that in a context where even the least of these can understand what that looks like? Because I think sometimes we over spiritualize things, or we put things on a level where um, the normal person can't understand it because we made it so deep they can't reach it. So give us a little piece about your spiritual identity and your purpose and how they can identify themselves from a spiritual perspective.
As I said, this is a process that I entered into like 3 to 6 months ago. And the only thing that I could, at first I would describe it as just this place that I'm in that feels so great. I just can't explain. I'm just so exciting. But God has allowed me to understand like my spiritual identity, the person that I am, the things that I am capable of doing, just not just in the spiritual aspect, but when I'm talking about just being able to reach other people, impact other people through my testimony, through my truth, through my transparency. He's identifying like actually who Keisha is. He's allowed me to define myself in ways that I never did before, through the process of welcoming him in my life, adhering to my purpose, just being willing to, no matter what comes about, like I'm committed to this thing, just being able to define myself in a way that I never have before. Not just saying that I'm a mother, but I'm a mother that's just willing to no longer settle for things that doesn't work for me or my kids. You know, my past
Right.
decisions, the things that I may have once given into, God has allowed me through my spiritual identity to also realize that through my personal growth, through my spiritual growth, that things can transform. A lot of times, even with self-love, we're afraid to enter that process for us because we're afraid of who's going to who's going to not accept it, or who's going to walk away because you're no longer acceptable of the things that you were used to. But God has allowed me to understand through my spiritual identity, all I need you to do is to step out and adhere to your process. And when you adhere to your process, don't even worry about the other people, what's going to happen with them, because God has switched that thing up for the relationship that I thought that was going to end, because I stepped out and said, look, God has told me I need to do this for myself. And I feel it and I know it. God has already confirmed it for me. God switched that thing right up. With my son's father, now he's talking more than he was about prayer. He's telling me what's in the Bible. He's encouraging me. You know, so that spiritual identity is something that will just begin to define you as a person. It will begin to show you things that you've never been able to just grab on before. Again, a process that's different for everybody and is not the exact same for everybody, but it's just that thing that like you will know this is only God speaking to me. It's not something that somebody's going to tell you and you're going to have to just, is it true? Is it not true? No, God is going to not just tell you, he's going to confirm it. You're going to know it's him. You're going to know when to move. You're going to know what not to do. You're going to know what to hold back from. You're going to know when to just pray and say, I need to stop. I need to pray about this before I move. That spiritual identity has done so much for me. Like just some things I can just move quick, but some things like I say, no, God, I'm going to just have to step back and wait on you to tell me to reveal this to me. It can come through a radio commercial, TV commercial, through just a simple conversation. But because I have connected with my spiritual identity, I have included God in my process, and I'm committed, and I understand my purpose and all of those wonderful things. Like, again, I say it's just a wonderful place for me. It's an exciting place for me. It has changed the way that I look in life. It has caused me to realize that I have to let go of what I thought my mother did. I felt abandoned. My spiritual identity has allowed me to say, you know what, we got to let go of this unforgiveness. We got to let go of what those past relationships have done to you. We got to let go of, how your father's suicide impacted you, how your grandfather's death impacted you, how your husband's death impacted you, how your son's death impacted you. That's 4 deaths, all deaths that impacted me. things that I was holding on for so long, just the deaths alone for so long. Then you add the relationships, and you add the toxic, and you the dysfunction. You add the struggling as a single parent, getting pregnant by a man that you only knew 2 months, and you find yourself like, here I am again. But God switches that whole thing up, and he begins to show you something different because you committed this time. Because you said, God, I don't understand, but I just need you to reveal to me this whole thing. So that spiritual identity will open up so much your mindset completely new. Your way of living completely new. Your way of thinking, your way of moving, your way of grasping onto things, your way of connecting with people, just a simple conversation, different, different, something
Wow.
different.
That's amazing. That is amazing. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, we are talking to none other than Lakisha Jenkins, and we are talking about self-love through pain. My goodness, my goodness. Want to share a few announcements with you all so that we can get those out of the way and we can continue to hear what this beautiful woman has to say. If you want to connect with Lakisha, you can visit her website at www.selfloveministry.net, or you can email her at lovingmefirst. That's LOVINGME, the number one ST underscore self-love at yahoo.com. On Facebook, she's Smiley Face Keisha. On IG, she's at Coach K Jenkins. And on, I don't know what YT is. When I saw that, I said, what in the world is
YouTube.
YT?
It's
Oh, you know
YouTube.
what? See, between you and my son and these little shortcuts. Okay, on YouTube, she is Coach K Jenkins. Girl, I'm gonna get you because I was like, what in the world is YT? And here I am on YouTube all over the place. I didn't know what YT was. Help me up in here, God. All right. So if you want to reach out to Coach Lakisha and talk more, hear more about how you can love yourself, please, ma'am, please, sir, visit her website at www.selfloveministry.net. And I'm sure all of her contact information is located on her page. Once again, I want to share with those of you who are out there to know that we have a book that has just come out called In Recovery, Rising from the Ruins. And this book is, you can order it. I have a copy of it right here. Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. Miss Lakisha Jenkins is also one of our featured writers. And if you want to order a copy, you can certainly send me an email at Michele at iam-mij.com. That is Michele at iam-mij.com. And I will send you the link to get a copy of this book. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Also, for those of you who may not know, we are doing another book. It's called Boots and Beyond. This is for our military people. We've already started the process. But if you want to get in, you got to get in like Flynn, get in quick, because we started the process for this particular book. And you can certainly email me at Michele at iam-mij.com. And lastly, we have a new book that's coming called My Bald is Beautiful. This is for my BBB girls. We are having an interest meeting on August the 5th at 7:00 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm seeking bald, beautiful, and bold co-authors to help me write this book, telling everybody that I am not my hair. So if you are interested in being a co-author for My Bald is Beautiful, please attend the interest meeting on August 5th at 7:00 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I don't know where I got that from. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. And so, again, ladies and gentlemen, we are talking to Lakisha Jenkins about self-love. If you are looking to watch the replay of this show, you can certainly watch that on YouTube, or YT, as Coach Jenkins says. You can watch that on YouTube at Life Matters with Michele TV Official. Once again, on YouTube, that is Life Matters with Michele TV Official. You can also listen to the audio replay every Friday at 4:00 p.m. on www.sensationalsoundsradio.net. That is every Friday at 4:00 p.m. You can listen to the Sunday show at 4:00 p.m. on www.sensationalsoundsradio.net. I am now looking for, I need guests for November and December. We're all filled up until then. We have the first two Sundays in November. locked in, so we need the rest of the dates to come in. Yes, 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 ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. So those are all of my announcements. Again, we are talking to none other than my dear, dear sister, Miss Lakisha Jenkins, talking about self-love through pain. Sweetie, if you can close us out, and as a coach, just tell us, what can you offer by way of guidance to those who are listening or watching when it comes to self-love? What are your closing thoughts and advice?
With self love, I would actually say, just to piggyback on most of the things that I've said, self love, I would just say be real with yourself. Be real with yourself. Eliminate any thought, any negative thought. Eliminate those things that make you feel bad. Eliminate those things that make you feel unsure of yourself or less of yourself. Begin to create a new way of thinking. Begin to surround yourself with positive people in your life, because you have to get to the point where you eliminate the unnecessary things, where you eliminate the people that are causing you pain, hurt, disappointment. You have to eliminate them. You have to understand first of all, you have to understand where you're trying to go. You have to understand where you're trying to go. And when you begin to understand where you're trying to go, then you can put your plan together as the resources that you need to get there. But you got to understand where you want to go first. And then you can understand the things that you need. And begin to see yourself already there. But see yourself already in that place. Look in the mirror. Have those chats with yourself. Journal some things. Write every day if you have to. Support system is a great thing. Support system doesn't always mean family.
That's right.
A support system is very important. But whatever you do, your biggest goal, your highest goal, is to gain that confidence that you probably never had before. To loose those strongholds that have been keeping you in a place and limiting your potential. You have to develop that mindset that is going to give you to move away from those two things. And once you begin to do that, as I said earlier, it's a step-by-step process. It's phases, it's stages to this thing. Some of us can move quicker than others. It doesn't mean that we're better than the other person. It just means that we're different. Our needs are different. Our desires is different, because some people have been in for decades. Some people are just entering into this thing. So don't look at somebody else and look at their progress. Put your plan together and see yourself already there. And see yourself already there.
That is some good stuff. Ladies and gentlemen, we have been talking to my dear sister, beautiful woman of God, Miss Lakisha Jenkins. She has been talking about self-love through pain. If you want to know how to love yourself better, because that's what she does, this is her oil, please, ma'am, please, sir, reach out to her at www.selfloveministry.net. That is www.selfloveministry.net. You can certainly send her an email at lovingmefirst_self-love. That's LOVINGME_ST_self-love@yahoo.com. And then I'm sure on her website you can find all of her other handles and how to reach out to her. I just want to thank you once again, my dear sister, for coming on and for sharing your heart, for being transparent, for helping all of us to understand what it means to love ourselves, because we can't love ourselves through the eyes of somebody else, and we cannot expect somebody else to help us with self-love. We got to do the work. We got to walk the walk so that we can talk the talk. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for joining us on Life Matters, for this is the platform where we talk about what matters to you. You all have a blessed week, and we'll talk again real soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.